Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are in the world. This is the Grand Scale Motivation Show. I'm excited today to have you tuning in. And if you're going to watch this a little bit later, I definitely encourage you to continue watching this show because tonight we have a special guest, a very good friend of mine who has a great profile in the digital marketing space. Now, this man has consulted for companies in Silicon Valley. He does work for Facebook and Google, and he trains on digital marketing all over the world. He is a fellow vice president in 2020 for JCI, and I have seen him train on marketing in a big way. I know that one of the courses we have now that's running all over the world in JCI was authored by this man. It's called Engage, Empower, Grow, and people are going crazy about that training. And so you can imagine the man we have here. He's international in his reach. He hails from Beirut in Lebanon. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mohammad Hijazi. Welcome, Mohammad.
Thank you very much, my great friend Uno, for hosting me on your show. I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A lot of people have been calling me. A lot of people have been asking me when and how they can watch this show today. So, because when I mentioned digital marketing, it came as a huge thing that they definitely wanted to know more about. And I think your profile also helped here. They could understand they're talking to an expert. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come through to this show. So let's start it the way we usually start.
It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And, I've missed having to talk to you this year, because of the pandemic and the coronavirus face to face. So this is an amazing opportunity for us to, have this conversation and engage people from all over the world.
Yeah. So let's start with who Mohammad is. How and where did you grow up, and how did you end up in the digital marketing space? Please take us as far back as you can and give us a snapshot into your upbringing, schooling, until where you are now.
Okay, so I was born and raised in a town called Saida in the south of Lebanon. Not a very remarkable town, not much going on. And once I wanted to go to college, I headed to Beirut, which is the capital of Lebanon, where most of the economic activity is happening. And you were here in January, you saw like it's our economic hub. And so I studied, I went to university here. I've been living here for 13 years now. And I actually was studying biology, and that as a pre-medical degree, which actually I also have. And in 2008, I was the first people or one of the first people in Lebanon to start a blog, kind of like a news blog talking about, what's happening in the country, what's happening in the world, a bit about technology and all of that. And it was so new and foreign to everyone in the country back then that it was, as if I had opened my own newspaper, because no one had seen that kind of information or a dedication to user information that is not a proper media channel. And so it was being picked up by international media, it was being picked up by local TV channels, because it was so new and it was a very foreign concept. And from that, I started seeing that, oh, people are starting to use social media, but they don't really know how to use it in a way to change their life. They were using it in a way to communicate with their friends, or Facebook was just picking up in this region in 2007, 2008. Twitter was barely a thing. There was no Instagram. There was nothing that people could easily use to communicate. People were still calling on the phone, which seems to me very foreign right now. So I decided to start doing workshops and conferences to teach people on how to use it to improve their lives, to change their lives to the better, not just as a tool for having fun. And once I started doing that, I created an initiative in the university, the American University of Beirut, where I used to study, to do these sort of events and conferences. And it got really, really a big impact, and we got a lot of participation, from politicians, from teachers and professors, and from businesses, because everyone wanted to start going digital, but no one knew. There were no courses at any university or school level at that point. So we were even getting the international attention. We hosted the technology advisor for Hillary Clinton back then in around 2011 here in Beirut, where he was discussing how to use social media for political advocacy, and you could see all the different ambassadors and politicians attending, and this was something that we were hosting much earlier than anyone else. We were doing conferences related to how to use social media for business, how to use social media as a professor in university. We trained students at the business school. So we're doing a lot of different activities. And then one of I used to study at. And so she was like, I need your help in order to create this course, because she didn't really know that much back then. And I was still studying biology back then, and I was like so intrigued by this field that I was like, okay, let's do this. And I'll also do a double major, since I'll be partaking in this, and I would like to have a business degree. So I continued as well with my bio degree, but I also did a business degree where I assisted this professor in this course. And I started also giving my own workshops to the university students. We even had a course for senior citizens who are above 50 years old on how to use technology. And that is basically how I started with, the digital revolution, and one of the earliest people in the country to do this. And that's back in 2008, when no one was even thinking about using this as a productive tool. But we got a lot of different things. And in 2013, we used all the connections that we made, and all these things that we learned to host the Social Media Awards, which was an award that gave props or gave awards to people who and people and businesses and celebrities and bloggers and different types of people, politicians, who were using social media in a productive way as an example for how people in our community should be using it. And it was a very massive event that was attended by thousands of people here in Beirut. So that is, the extent of the beginning of my field. And then I started getting clients, and I was interning in one of the best agencies in the world called Burnett back in 2011. And the ball started rolling, where I was getting more than 120 clients until today, from Lebanon, the Middle East, and all over the world.
Wow. So it wasn't an intentional thing. It's something that you kind of that came to you as developments were taking place in the internet and social media space, until you stumbled upon it, got interested in it, and then you kind of went on for it, and now it has become most of what you do, and it has become a profession. I love something that you've said
Exactly.
here about using social media. I know we're going to go down into digital marketing, but I love what you've said about using social media or using social media platforms in a productive way and not just for connecting with friends or for fun. All right. In your experience with the 120 clients that you've worked with, and with the many folks that you've helped and many companies that you've helped, um, what do you consider productive? What do you consider productive? Or which ways have you seen people using social media to either create impact or to increase the value of their market or business?
There's so many things that you can do to beyond just chatting and connecting with friends on social media, and it depends on what your interests are, or what field you work in, or what things you want to develop about yourself. So, for example, I've seen advocacy in terms of political advocacy, where in the early in the last decade, you could see all these revolutions in the Arab countries happening because of social media, and was so new and so foreign to people that the Tunisian revolution or the Egyptian revolution were fueled by people connecting on social media to try and improve their countries. You could see that businesses are trying to use social media to promote their services or to connect with their potential audiences. You could see that people are using it to find jobs, to connect to people that they want to learn from, to get mentors, to connect maybe to politicians to try and change their opinions about things that might have been much, much harder 20 or 15 years ago. So it's making the world much connected, and the way that you can benefit from it is really directly related to what you are interested in doing. So you can do hobby groups, you can do lobbying groups, you can even learn from different cooking recipes from people all over the world. So personal development and also business development, you can do it throughout social media. And once you know how easy it is to develop yourself that way, you will start seeing it every day in every post that you do on social media, or on on even on WhatsApp or different messaging platforms. You can start creating these communities that are able to transform your life in a way or another.
So you can use it to change people's opinions or to drive a certain agenda, or even if it's business, if it's civic sector, public sector, whichever platform you are involved in, you can use it to promote what you do and to promote the ideas of where you want the community to go. Now let's go back a bit and start talking about digital marketing. And I know it's a broad subject, but I want you to simplify it for the startup entrepreneur who has not studied marketing but wants to use marketing tools to make sure that their business is out there and they are able to sell their products or services across the world. So, what is the difference between digital marketing and the traditional marketing that we've always known? And maybe let's start from there, and then we will go even.
Okay, so 15 years ago, marketing was not available for most businesses. It was only available for businesses that were able to shell out hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in order to reach audiences. And there was these types, very limited types of marketing, which is, for example, TV advertisements or print advertisements in magazines or newspapers, or radio ads. Billboards on the streets, on the highways, things like that. And then you could also do flyers and posters, which were generally the least effective. And so there was this type of marketing that you didn't really have access to unless you had massive budgets. And that's why you would see that small businesses back then didn't really have a big power to compete with multinationals or very big companies. And then with the beginning of Google advertising and Facebook advertising towards the end of the last decade, everyone was able to push their products, their services, their messages to people with a very small budget compared to the hundreds of thousands or the millions that you needed beforehand. And so digital marketing right now is but it can be different things. It can be having your own website, having a blog. It can be search engine optimization. It can be doing advertising on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Snapchat. It can be search engine advertising or marketing on Google based on keywords if someone's searching. It can be doing video marketing on YouTube or any other video site. So and the best thing about this, and the main differences that I can say, is that with traditional marketing, aside from the massive budget that you needed, you didn't really know who, if you were actually reaching the audience that you want to reach, and who is actually reaching and how much you are reaching. So when you put an ad on TV or a billboard, you don't really know how many people are actually seeing it. The platform, the TV station will give you a but you can never verify that it is true. You can never verify that when someone's watching a TV show, if they're actually watching your ad or they flip to another channel. There's no way to track that. And the same thing with billboards. If people are driving, you don't know if they actually looked at your ad when they're driving. You don't know how many people passed by it. So you can't really track any of that. And you can't actually target a specific audience. It all has to be a massive audience. In terms of digital marketing, you can do that and much more. You can target your audience into small specific demographics that you set. And you can actually track how many people saw your ad, how long they watched your video. There's so many metrics that you can track, what's their gender or age and location, their education. You can really go deep into the analytics with digital marketing. And the budget for it is much, much, much smaller. You can start with $5 or $10 a day, which I don't really recommend to go that low, but you can start with that budget and you will be able to reach probably as much as you would have reached in traditional marketing. So basically, this is the main difference in terms of audience and in terms of measurability and in terms of budget.
So we want to break down the things that you have said now. You first of all, you said there are many types and many ways and forms, and we're going to get to that. But you mentioned one of the advantages of digital marketing compared to traditional marketing is that you are able to reach people that you want to reach with a small budget. I have a small company. I've just started my business, and I'm thinking I want the world, and it's something that can go throughout the world. Say I have a book, or I have an audio book, or a normal book. When you say it's a small budget, and I'm busy thinking to myself, nah, should I really pay money should I invest money to advertise my product or my service? What would you say to that entrepreneur who's sitting on the line saying, I'm just going to advertise this to my friends and to my networks, but I'm not going to do paid adverts on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on Google? How do you explain to them the value that they can get when they invest money?
Okay, so first of all, it's always good to start advertising your product and testing it with your inner circle, the friends and your colleagues and the people that you know, maybe on LinkedIn or at any other platform in real life or virtual. But if you're only focusing on that part, you will never be able to grow and scale your product or your service or your book. So it's a good place to start for sure, especially if you don't have a good budget. But it's going to be very hard for you to scale because these people are buying your product or your service mainly because they are your friends. Maybe some of them feel obligated, but they will not, maybe get the most value out of it if these are not your actual audience, so people who will benefit the most out of your product or service. So it's very sad if an entrepreneur has put all this work into producing this product and then no one knows about it, right? People might be searching for it, but they can't find it, or they're not aware about it. So generally, in business or in entrepreneurship, the marketing budget for your product should be at least 25% of your operating budget in order for you to get to scale and to get orders and to get people on board. So if you are spending, let's say, $100,000 or $50,000 creating your product, then out of that 50,000 or out of $100,000, for example, you need to put $25,000 as a marketing budget to ensure, and that is the industry average, to ensure that enough people.
25%.
Yeah, 25%.
Okay.
In order to ensure that your product is out there and people are trying to are finding about it. And we can talk a bit about numbers later on, but it's really important, because if you have invested so much into inventing or creating a product or a service and you're not able to reach all the audience that might be interested in this, then how are you going to grow? How are you going to make money? And it's known that usually with startups, within the second or the third year, you will not be able to break even or even make profit. So the only way that you're going to do this break even is to scale quickly enough where the amount of money that you're spending in product development and the amount of money you're spending in marketing and every other cost that you have is less than the amount of sales that you are doing. And in order to achieve that, you need to reach more and more and more people every day.
Okay. So now, I guess if you are there, you can tell that I need to invest at least 25% into marketing and advertising, because I mean, the entrepreneurship game is about it's not just about creating, it's about getting your product or service into into the hands of those who need your product or service. Now that I understand, and I would say, no, I'm going to make sure that it's part of my budget, this thing. How then do I decide? Because you mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned that you could use a blog, you could use search engine optimization, video marketing. You mentioned something to do with Google advertising, Facebook advertising. How do I choose the platform that works best for me and my business? And after that, how do I measure the success of whatever platform that I am choosing to work with?
Okay, so even before you try to decide which platform you want to work on, you have to know who your audience is. And this is probably the biggest mistake that most brands and businesses do. They would be like, they just go on social media, they put a post, and they think that everyone in the world is their audience, everyone in the world is going to buy their product, which is in fact not true. And even with any brand that you think might be very, very mass, it's not going to appeal to 100% of audiences. And I'll give you an example. Think of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, you would think that everyone in the world might buy it, but then you would see that maybe there's a segment that is not interested in junk food or sugar. They're only interested in healthy food. So even no matter how much budget you put to advertise to that audience, they're never going to buy from you, right? So you're spending your money or you're wasting your money on that type of audience. Now, maybe let's take the example of your business. Who do you think is your potential audience? or the people who might buy your book, or the people who are interested in your trainings, for example.
So professionals who are looking to starting their own businesses, or people that are already in business that are looking to increase their revenue streams, yeah, I would say those would be the target market.
Okay, so in order to think of to target those people, we need to go and see what's their behavior. So, for example, what's their age range? What's their gender? Maybe are they educated, non-educated? Do they have how much money do they make? Do they have a family? Where they are located? So there's so many demographics or audience information that you can think about in order to target those people. So it can be people who have entrepreneur in their bio on Facebook. It can be people who are founder or CEO. It can be people who generally above 25 years old. There are some exceptions for sure, but generally they need to be educated, maybe are currently in university or have graduated. Definitely, as I said, there's exceptions, but you want to go with the mass view. So once you pinpoint all of these different metrics that you think your audience has, you need to see where this type of audience is. So, for example, if you have a startup or a product that is targeting Generation Z, or the people who are younger than us in their 20s or in their teens, then where are you going to promote that product? It's definitely not going to be on Facebook, because Facebook now has the older generation and the retention of the older generation. So where would you go? You would go to TikTok or to Snapchat, for example, where most Gen Z people are, because they don't want to be on Facebook where their parents are, right? You can go on Instagram because they're using it much more. If you want to target, for example, older people who are 30s, 40s, those people are right now are on Facebook, and so you're more likely to reach them there. If you want to target professionals, you can use platforms such as LinkedIn, but also LinkedIn is very expensive to advertise on, so you can also test with Facebook. If you have specific keywords for your business that generally are not too expensive, you can try to do Google ads, where when someone is searching for example, for a motivation book, then your book will show up in the #1 result in the search because of the ads. So depending on where you think your audience is where you choose the platforms that you start with. And again, you shouldn't be in all the platforms, especially if you're a small business, because it's going to be exhausting. It's going to take out a lot of money out of your budget. You need people to run it. It's going to be a very big headache. So focus on one or two platforms where your audience is, and then once you grow and scale, you can move into other platforms.
That's very good advice. That first of all, you have to look at the audience that you're looking at, and you have to describe that customer that you are looking to target, and then only then can you invest in a chosen platform. And I like what you said about, your audiences are in different spaces, and depending on who you're targeting, then you have to decide which space you're going to use for your advertising.
And you might have more than one audience, and there's something in marketing called personas, which is basically your typical audience or member. So it can be different types of personas, and then you'll need to customize different messages to different personas, because some things that might work with one audience might not work with the rest. And I see a lot of brands make this mistake where, as I said, they think everyone is their audience. And personally, as a single man who's not married, doesn't have children, I keep seeing ads that people are wasting their money on trying to target me when I'm never going to buy their ads. For example, children's milk or diapers. I see the ads constantly literally everywhere. But I'm not married. I don't have children. Google, Facebook, literally everything that I do online, every platform knows that. And you can do that with the targeting, and yet I'm still seeing all these types of ads. So these brands, and especially these small businesses, are wasting their money targeting me. And the funniest thing I've seen very recently was I kept getting video ads for tampons, which I mean is the easiest thing to turn off. When you're doing the targeting for your ad, you just turn off the mails, because why am I ever going to buy tampons? And they're wasting literally half their budget, because if we're assuming 50% female, 50% male are people who are using social media, they're literally wasting half their budget. So this is one example of how you can, try and save money when it comes to your budget. Instead of spending thousands of dollars, you can spend half of that.
Thank you very much, Mo, for that. But first, we've said definitely you've got to make some investment somewhere. Some money's got to go out. That's the first thing. But now we're talking about how to make that money work for you. Definitely, you have to have your persona, and you have to be the more specific you are in your targeting, the better. From the way I hear you say it. Now, the next question comes to the messaging that you put through, right, on social media. There is a difference, and I see this many times. There are people that I just ignore because it feels like a sell, like it's like a direct. I want your money. I give you a product, like a man on the street. And then there is another one that takes me in, draws me in until I get. What kind of messaging advice do you have that does not seem too intrusive and aggressive, but attracts in a way that still makes the customer feel like I want to buy, at the same time that I just don't see this and ignore it? How do I craft my message in a way that benefits my business?
Okay, so being aggressive or direct to the point is not always a bad thing. So sometimes if you have, let's say, a massive discount going on, or a product that is blowing everyone else out of the water, then if you're using a direct approach, it can still be beneficial. So if you have 80% off on Black Friday for one of your products, that's the messaging that you want to use, and that will get you direct sales. But it depends on also the type of product. If it's a product, if it's a service, usually consumer goods can easily be marketed through direct messaging. Food, or try other things.
Sorry, I'm losing you there. Sorry, Mo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I lost you there a bit. You were talking about a certain type of product that can be used, where we can use direct marketing. Do you mind repeating that? Or direct messaging, I think.
So I was saying that, yeah. So what I was saying is that for consumer goods, direct messaging works when you're showcasing your features, when you're showcasing if you have discounts, or things that people are not doing. Or if you're showcasing, things that people really want to buy. But if you're trying to sell things that maybe have a high competition on, or things that are not consumer goods, that are not very concrete, like ideas or books or training, or if you're doing B2B things, then business to business things, then you'll have to have a different approach. Now, definitely, the key thing about your messaging is to have a content plan. You shouldn't be advertising directly all the time. So if you're having your Facebook page, you shouldn't be posting direct messages 100% of the time. It usually should be actually 30% of the time where you engage in direct marketing. And the other 70% of the time, you can talk about different things. The important thing is for people to feel connected to your brand. And how do they feel connected to your brand? When you are adding value to their life.
Right.
So if you are sharing maybe interesting articles around the industry that you are in, or giving them tutorials, or giving them hints or quotes or news about things that are happening around you that is related to your industry. If
Mm,
you are doing Q&A sessions, this that what we are doing right now for your business
mm,
is that type of content. You're not
mm,
We're not here directly selling people your
mm,
audience about your products. You're
mm,
adding value to their lives. And
mm,
another type of messaging that really works is storytelling.
mm,
Make the people feel that they are emotionally involved in your product or your company or you as a person. And so
mm,
once you use these different types of messaging, you can test and see which ones are working for your product. But the more that you add value and the more that you are responsive and the more that you engage with your audience, the more that they're going to remember you or your brand or your product. And down the
mm,
line, it is they are more likely to purchase it. So
mm,
it's all about building your brand through your messaging, and then also with your messaging you need to be aware of your voice and your tone, and there's a lot of exercises that you can do in order to determine what is this tone and voice that you have to use for your brand. It can be things like which language that you want to talk with. It can be how your language is in terms of are you using complicated words, are you using simple words, are you strict or are you funny? So there's a lot of things that you need to think about when you craft this when you craft this voice and tone and your company's personality in order to for your audience to relate to you. And this
mm,
definitely is related to for you understanding your audience. If you don't understand your audience, you're not able to know how they would like to be addressed.
mm, mm, mm. Great answer there about the messaging. So 70% is in your enhancement of brand, and then the 30% is direct. I'm telling you what I've got and how good it is for you. I love that. Now, there's a question here about analytical tools that you use to measure the success of your investment in advertising and so forth. Maybe tell us a little bit more. Say I zone into, you mentioned three. Give us the top, um, highest, uh, most used type of uh, social media tools and how much we can get out of them in terms of analytics when we make investments.
Okay, so in terms of analytics, there's a lot of fancy tools that you can buy, but as a starting entrepreneur, you don't need anything more than the platforms themselves because they give
Right.
you days and days of data that you can go through. And honestly, if you will never have the time to go through every single piece of data that you can get from Facebook or Instagram or Google or any sort of social network or platform that you are using. But the
Mm,
issue here is that for each type of business, it's different. The things that you need to track and measure is different.
mm, mm,
And one of the also biggest mistakes for most brands focusing on number of likes, number of followers that they have. I mean, it's nice to have a big audience, but first of all, for you to know that all the platforms have decreased the organic reach of any post that you put. So even if you have
mm,
millions of followers, the amount of people who are actually seeing the posts that you are putting without advertising is less than 1%. So even
mm,
if you have millions of followers and millions of likes on your posts, that doesn't mean that you are going to sell, that you are selling or that you are doing well. So definitely
mm,
that is one of the metrics that you can keep your eye on, but it is not the most important one. The most
mm,
important metric is for you to track conversions. So if you and there's a lot of tools directly within Facebook, within Google, where you can implement pixels. They are called. You can put them on your website in order to track. If I spend $100 on Facebook ads, how many people are actually buying from my store that are actually coming from Facebook, or even from which
mm,
advertising campaign that I did. from which post do they come from. So this needs a little bit of technical assistance from a developer who helped you with the website. But once you have that set up, you can even ask Facebook to only advertise to people who are more likely to buy your product, and you only pay once that person purchases a product. That is definitely going to be more expensive than if you are boosting it generally to a bigger audience. But then you make sure that if I spend $5 for this customer, I'm making, let's say, $30. So it's a win-win situation. On the other hand, if I'm spending $1,000 on a regular campaign without conversion tracking, I can't be sure if even one of these people, the millions that are gonna see my ad, are going to buy. So conversions are very, very important. Also, the audience sentiment is something that is very important to track. And when I say sentiment, it means that are they positive or negative on your page? Do they like your product? Do they don't like your product? Are we receiving more positive comments or negative comments? Because you will need that information in order to improve either maybe your customer service or your product itself or your approach and messaging. So if you don't take that into consideration and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, even though you're getting so many negative comments, then you're not really learning from and you're not analyzing the data that you're receiving from your audience. So conversions is important, sentiment is important. Definitely engagement and likes and all of that will give you a bigger amplification, but that is not the only thing that you should be measuring. And also, it depends on, again, your product. So if how many people are going to your website from social media, how many people are putting items in the cart. For example, if you have an e-commerce platform on Shopify or things like that, and you can integrate that directly into Facebook or into Google. And so it depends really on the product, but I think the most important thing to focus on is conversion, especially in the later stages of the startup. In the beginning, you want to track maybe awareness. So you want to see how many people are getting exposed to my brand. That doesn't mean that any of them are going to buy, but how many people are getting exposed. But in the end, it all goes down back to sales. If you're not selling, you're not going to be able to sustain your business.
They're very insightful what you've said, because I mean we could spend a lot of time just looking at who has liked, who has commented, how many times has this been shared. But if it's not improving my bottom line, it's useless, and it doesn't matter if I have millions. And I love the point that you've raised now, that just because you've got millions of followers doesn't mean all the followers are seeing the post that you are posting now, because the reach is now low. These companies want you to pay for them to increase the reach of your marketing, which is pretty cool. So conversion sentiment. Okay, I like that. That what you have said here. Let me see. There's been some questions and comments on here. Chiedza says, quite an insightful discussion. I started a scuff side business some few years back, and my greatest hurdle has been promoting it. The product and pricing were easy to navigate, but the placement and promotion, a tough nut to crack. I have seen where I have gone wrong and hope to market on a platform my target audience is. Fantastic, Chiedza. Yes, indeed. And that's exactly why we are here, so that we get to, see that. How effective are these social media analytic tools is, I think, something that you've already answered here from Tiamo. Another one is very helpful answer about analytic tools. Thank you. I think what I'm getting is that the ones that are existing on normal social platforms such as Facebook is good enough. However, you won't really know about the stats until you advertise or boost posts. That's correct, right? They only give analytics.
Not necessarily. You actually get analytics on your organic reach as well. So when you have any Facebook page, a business page, not a personal profile, you can go into the page data and you can get all the analytics that you would get with advertising.
Okay.
So in your on your Facebook page, you can look that up. You can see all the data in terms of demographics of your audience, what time they are online. You can also see things like which posts are doing better than others. A lot of different information, and you can even export that into Excel and do your own graphs and you do your own analysis without even paying anything.
I see. Right. You mentioned that back in the day, having a blog, when you opened your blog, 2007, 2008, it wasn't a very common thing. Now there's millions and millions of blogs. People are opening blogs every day. What are the new things coming up now that we need to know that we can take advantage of to add value to our businesses? What are some of the interesting things that you can see in this industry that one needs to kind of, get their hands on, get to know how it's working, because it's going to be the next big thing?
Okay, so this is actually something that I've been struggling with personally, because there's so many things that come up every day, and for me to actually download that app or sign up for that new social network is very overwhelming because there's already too much. But then I learned that I have to be on top of all of these things, otherwise I'll be late to the hype or late to the trends. And I would.
Hi, Mo. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me or?
Yeah, I lost you from the time you were talking about I could lose the hype or the trend that's developing. And then from there, we lost you from there. Maybe you can start from there.
Yeah, so you need to keep catching up with these trends because you never know what is the next big platform. And right now, even though it keeps being made fun of or not being taken seriously, but TikTok right now is the fastest growing platform, especially for millennials and Generation Z, where all small businesses are able to go viral so easily on TikTok and make orders. And if you actually go and search for, hashtags such as small businesses and things like that on TikTok, you can see these examples of people in literally the middle of nowhere in these small farms or small cities all over the world, small towns, not even cities. They're trying to make small businesses work, and one of their videos goes viral, and their sales go up 100 times more. So what you need to keep in mind when there's new platforms or new trends is that every new platform wants to grow very quickly, which means that they will be able to serve organic reach much higher than the popular social networks because there's less competition on it. So to compare this with Facebook 10 years ago, if you had 100 followers on your page, your 100 followers are going to see every post that you did. But right now, if you have 100 followers on your page, usually it's only 1% or one person is going to see your posts organically. Now, if you compare that with TikTok, without spending any time, if you have good content or if you have good storytelling skills, you are going to blow up very, very easily. Get thousands of followers for just posting consistently. And I've been seeing, for example, for your type of business, the motivational speaker and the training, a lot of these trainers are doing 1-minute clips on TikTok, and they're able to grow their audience very, very quickly. And then they're able to sell their services, either consulting or training services, or trying to sell their ebooks. So they're growing much faster. They can get hundreds of thousands of views, where if they do the same thing on Facebook, they're not going to get anywhere. So usually when there's a new platform, they're more likely to push your content once they start. And then I can anticipate in 2 or 3 years, TikTok is going to resemble Instagram and Facebook in terms of the algorithm which favors paying rather than having organic reach. So it
Yeah.
really serves you to look into the new trends and into the new platforms, because it's easier to scale on new platforms with that have a sizable audience rather than the big multinational, corporate platforms such as Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and all of these platforms now.
That's very useful for one to know. Now, seeing that these guys, the Facebooks, TikTok, these social media platforms keep changing their algorithms in a way that profits them, what can I do to own my following? What can I do to have a platform where I can directly link to people that are interested in my stuff? And how can I grow that following for myself so that when I use these platforms, I'm only using them to add to the people that already follow me, that are loyal customers that I can go with. That's the first one. How do I get to that so that I'm not controlled, or my business is not dependent on me paying these people?
Okay, so I don't know how we can get about it very much without paying people like Facebook and Google,
Yeah.
because they dominate and they have all the audience. Now, for sure, you don't want to be 100% reliant on them, but you can't really avoid them because you're either going to be doing TV ads or you are going to be doing digital ads. However, there are ways where you can be able to control more of your audience than, let's say, if Facebook is down to tomorrow and you're not able to access your audience, or if it disappears for some reason.
Yeah.
You need to have your loyal audience in some way or another. And believe it or not, the answer here is a bit old school. It's about gathering data in terms of a mailing list or phone numbers, like phone numbers where you can reach them either by text, SMS, or WhatsApp groups, for example. I see a lot of people do these WhatsApp groups for their businesses. They also do Facebook groups, because Facebook groups for businesses, or Facebook groups in general, they have much higher reach. So you don't really need to pay at all when you. But not everyone's going to be in your Facebook group unless they are loyal customers or they are interested in what you are in your brand. So it's harder to have them move them from a page to a group. But the surest way is to have their email addresses, so you can drop them emails every now and then. And this is where you see it, especially with all these motivational speakers all over the world. They give these free webinars, but in order to attend this webinar, you need to put in your email address or your phone number in order to access it. And so that way you have their email address, you can reach them directly into their inbox, or you can text them whenever you have things going on. This is one way to own your audience. And then also having your own website where people create an account and sign up and do all of that. That definitely needs a bigger investment, because creating a website with the database feature and all of these things is not as easy as creating a blog. But on the long run, you will be able to own your audience regardless of whatever happens to the social platforms that you are using.
That's very interesting that you've said. So Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, your own traditional mailing list, your phone numbers, your database generally is what you're saying is something that you can use to grow your following that will not be dependent on the more advertising. But at least once you've got them in, you know you're gonna get them in for longer. What about these new things that we keep hearing? There's, I think, machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence, and all these ways in which data is being analyzed for the use of businesses. To the entrepreneur, to the startup, and to the small to medium enterprise owner, or even to the executive members, what should they be thinking about these things as far as business is concerned?
You're disconnected a bit. Can you repeat the last part where you asked the question?
So I said we often hear things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics, and so forth, big data analytics. What is it, and how do we as business owners or entrepreneurs who want to further our businesses use these technologies to drive our businesses forward, if there is any such way?
Okay, so basically all the algorithms on all the platforms that you are using are based on intelligence and machine learning. Mark Zuckerberg in 2005, when he started Facebook, he wrote the code for Facebook. But then components of that code is that this code will learn on its own, and Mark Zuckerberg will not be able to have control of the algorithm and how it works, because this algorithm is learning on its own, and there is no way for humans to understand the way that it learns and it acquires new skills. So this can definitely be used to understand the audience. Facebook understands its audience much, much more than even the audience understands itself, because of artificial intelligence and machine learning. When you like 20 pages on Facebook as a user, Facebook is able to learn about you more than any of your closest friends, because they can track your behavior, and because they can track anything that is related to things that you are doing, who you're talking to, which businesses you're communicating with, what's your favorite food, what are the things that you are watching, and all of that is kind of in your profile as a person that they use to serve you ads that are most relevant to you. So you have to understand that all these platforms, they are free because they are selling these ads, and these ads rely on having accurate information about the users. Now they're not actually selling your data in the sense of, let's say Facebook, or let's say a restaurant knows that me as a person, I like this and that. But as a collective data that they are collecting, they can target me because they know I like pizza, for example. They just can't know that it is me. And they don't sell your data to the business in terms of emails or phone numbers or even profiles. They just show you the ads that are most relevant to you. And this is how Facebook and this is how Google and all the platforms work. And so once you understand these algorithms, if you read a bit more about them, maybe take a free course, you are going to be able to business and learn what things work with it and what things don't work with it. And generally, this algorithm changes every month or every day because it is artificial. They are learning new things. If you've seen all the hearings that Mark Zuckerberg has been doing for Congress in the US because of all the privacy issues and the election issues that were happening, even he cannot understand what the algorithm favors, because it's an organism on its own now. You can't tweak some of the things, but you can't control it because it's learning from the billions and trillions of data points that they are gathering from all these users around the world. So, for example, if you go on Facebook and you click on an ad related to clothing, then Facebook will start serving you more clothing ads because you clicked on something, you converted to one of the ads, and so they will know that you are interested in fashion or in buying clothes. And if you watch a lot of cooking videos, they are more likely to serve you ads about food or utensils or other cooking shows. And it's the same with YouTube. So this is what the artificial intelligence is doing. It's learning as much as it can about people. And all this big data is very, very fascinating. Around a decade ago, Twitter did this study where they were monitoring what people are tweeting about feeling sick or having the flu over 3 or 4 years. And in the fifth year, they were accurately able to predict when will the next epidemic will hit in certain places because of the data that they had from the 3 or 4 years before that, just by people tweeting about how they are feeling. And then they were able to, with the CDC in the US, they were able to mediate this and make sure that the medication was ready before then. And they were trying to work on a vaccine for that as soon as possible in terms of the flu vaccine. So there's so much that you can learn about big data. It's definitely it has business implications, but I can't really see right now for small businesses. It's a very big investment to go into. You will need a lot of people to study big data and aggregate. And when I was talking about all these analytics that you can get from your platforms, and you can sit and analyze it for days. For small entrepreneurs and small businesses, it's not realistic to think that they can integrate this because it requires a lot of resources, and you can analyze a lot of different things from that. So I would suggest to go slow, and as you grow, you can start integrating more types of analytics and data, big data, and things like that. Unless your business depends on big data, if you're, for example, a health startup or something related to big data, then definitely that's a different topic.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Mo, for this information. Now, let me go to the last one. And I'm just going to leave it to you to give to us what you think, are some of the things that people can take note of in their posting, in their marketing, and in their whatever it is that's fresh, that's new, or that's not commonly said, but that could help entrepreneurs to get to the next level of their business.
Okay, so I think the most important thing here is to treat this as a plan, to actually have a strategy and to set your goals in terms of what you want to reach with your digital marketing. And if one of the biggest mistakes as well is I see all these entrepreneurs or businesses, they tell their children to run their social media, or they hire an intern to run their digital media because they think that, my child is very good with Facebook, so he can run my Facebook business account. And honestly, that's you're shooting yourself in the foot when you do that, because if you're not willing to invest in the image of your company, if you're not willing to invest to reach your audience, then just don't do it, because you're going to embarrass yourself. I mean, unless you're a small restaurant or a neighborhood grocery store, that's a different thing. But if you're trying to sell a product that needs some expertise to market, or you need to know your product well or your service, then you need to either learn it yourself, and it's not hard to do, or you need to hire someone, either consultant or a full-time, because if you're not doing any of that, no matter how amazing your product is, if you're not doing marketing, you're not going to reach anyone. So make sure that you have a strategy, and you have someone who can implement that strategy, and it's fairly easy. So even before you launch your startup, I would suggest, or I would recommend, that you take a couple of days to learn some digital marketing. You can find hundreds or thousands of courses that are free. Actually, the course that I'm teaching for Facebook right now is called Boost with Facebook. And this program is designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses to learn how to use Facebook platforms. So those are Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp for Business, Messenger, and the Audience Network, in order to utilize them in a good way without spending too much budget in order to promote your business. And these courses are being done all over the world in all different languages with different partners, and they are for free. So you can search Boost with Facebook. It's only a couple of days where you learn all the basics that you need to implement strategies on the Facebook platforms. You can also go on Coursera and find all these free basic or advanced courses. You can go on Udemy, you pay very little for the courses. You can go on YouTube. There's so many things that you can learn, but you need to have the mindset of, I need to learn this before I launch my startup, or I need to hire someone to do it for me. You can't just go blindsided into this, because you will spend money without knowing how to spend it. You will waste some money, you will waste some time. So it doesn't really need a lot. You don't need to be the expert of social media to do that. There are some basic things. If you need help, you can hire someone more advanced, but you can do it on your own. It's not rocket science. And so that's something that's really important. And then, as I said, the two important things that you have to keep in mind: the audience and your content. If you don't know your audience, no matter how much you spend, no one's going to buy from you. If you don't have appealing content in terms of messaging, in terms of storytelling, in terms of anything that you're doing, if you have really ugly visuals, people are not going to buy from you, because they think that your company is not professional. So invest in improving the image of your company, invest in having good social media, and some budget for boosting. We didn't really talk about the numbers, but whenever you're boosting on Facebook, just to give you a quick tip, in order for your campaign to reach um, um, its optimization, you need to run an ad for at least 10 days, because the first 7 days of your campaign on Facebook, the algorithm is still learning who your optimal audience is and how to reach them. So if you boost for $5 for 3 days, then you're not going to be reaching your optimized audience. It needs at least 7 days for the algorithm to get out of the learning phase of the ad or the campaign, in order to have the best possible thing. And then boosting the whole Africa and the Middle East. Facebook ads are still affordable outside of the UAE, the Dubai, and Saudi Arabia, because there's a lot of competition there. Everywhere else in Africa and the Middle East, and counting in Turkey and some parts of Eastern Europe, it's still very cheap compared to the West and US and Canada. So my suggestion would be, if you're running your first campaign, dedicate $100 for it, run it for 10 days, $10 per day, and see what the other results that you get. You don't need to invest hundreds of thousands, but it's also important to be consistent. So you need to be posting 2-3 times a day, 2-3 times a week on most of the platforms. If you disappear for a month, then the algorithm will kind of punish you, because you're not posting a lot. And when I say they punish you, they decrease your organic reach. So your organic reach depends, and the thing that you're not paying for depends on a lot of different variables, where you are punished when you don't do a lot of things. When you post very rarely, when you post content that is bad in terms of visuals, when people report your profile or your page, when you don't get a lot of engagement, all of these lead for your organic impressions to be lower. So you always have to have high quality content. I know I'm saying a lot of different things, but there's a lot to talk about in this specific topic. So just make sure, I think my ultimate advice is, take a couple of days to learn the basics. It's not very hard, it's not rocket science. You can do it, and it will not impede your startup if you invest 2 or 3 days to learn all of this, and it's free.
Yeah, yeah. There's a question here. You mentioned Boost with Facebook, and I think you mentioned Sarah. Do you mind spelling that or writing it down for our audiences here who want to know, so that they can get that free course? Is it Sarah you mentioned?
Coursera. So it's course, Coursera, So it's a course website. You can get courses from all the top universities in the world, and they do have um, uh, courses about digital marketing. Some of them are beginner and some of them are advanced. Boost with Facebook, if you Google it, depending on the country that you are in. The program that I am doing for Europe and and the Middle East is with Startups Without Borders. You can look them up. It's free program. We have versions in English and in Arabic, but this mainly geared towards refugees and low income or struggling entrepreneurs. But the same program is being run with different partners for different goals, and you will be able to find it in your own language as well. You can also go on the Facebook a business section, and they have all the courses that you can learn for free. If you want to get a certification, you have to pay for the certification, but you can get all the content and learn everything for free in the Facebook Business Help section. There's a lot of different things you can find there. And then there's also Udemy, Udemy, and then there's YouTube. For sure, you can find a lot of courses on there.
Thank you so much. Wow, we are learning big time here.
I can type them up later on.
Okay, you can also type them up
in the chat. I can do that once I log in on my phone.
Mo, now, thank you very much for all this time that you've given. And I think I didn't realize we're almost like 1 hour and 10 minutes into this discussion, because you keep giving a very insightful and deep info that you give to us. How do people get in touch with you if they want to, get assistance with their digital marketing and also just to learn more from you?
Okay, so it's very easy. You can either go on my website, mohammadhijazi.com, the same way my name is spelled here, or you can find me on LinkedIn or on my Facebook page. You can just drop me a message there, and I'll be very happy to help you out with whatever you need in terms of digital marketing.
Fantastic. And how much does he charge is what is being asked. I'm sure whoever it is who wants to contact you, you'll be able to give them a good grand scale motivation discount, most definitely. Thank you very much for coming through.
Definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Definitely, you can message me wherever you want, and we can discuss. I'm generally not very expensive as people might think. So hopefully, if you need any help, we can reach an agreement.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Chieza, Chichi, Siamo. I think I saw Iwa on the call playing. Thank you so much for coming through as always. Thank you very much, Mo. I really appreciate your time here and you getting us all this information. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Mohammad Hijazi, my good friend from Beirut, Lebanon, teaching all things digital marketing. You want to watch this, you want to take some time, we're going on to a holiday period. You want to watch this, take some time and learn more about digital marketing, because it's going to be good for you for 2021, for all your personal development, all your self-actualization, self-development. Please come to the Grand Scale Motivation Show. This show is going to keep coming every week, but for this year, we're ending it now. We're going to meet next year, and there is much, much more coming and much more being prepared for the year 2021. But for now, good night, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are. Please stay safe, social distancing, put your mask on wherever you are, and please let's minimize our travel. Thank you so much. Much love from the Grand Scale Motivation team. Goodbye.